We are in Cannes with the Marketing Academy, and here everyone's celebrating their great success, their creativity, their breakthroughs in AI, and all of that's great. But we know that with all of those highs, there are some lows. And there are lows that change your life, lows you didn't think you could manage, but yet those are the ones that you learn the most from. So the Academy believes in having very real conversations, and we call some of those, when we do them like this, bare-faced chats. So it's personal, it's some pretty direct questions, and I am thrilled to have with me Stephan Loerke. Stephan, can you start by telling people your name so we have it on camera and what you do? And then I'm really curious to hear what you're most personally passionate about with the WFA right now.
So my name is Stephan Loerke. I'm the Chief Executive Officer of WFA, the World Federation of Advertisers, which is the global trade organization bringing together brand owners all around the world. And so I've been leading this organization for the last 20 years.
Great organization, if I say so.
Thank you. We've worked together quite a while. And I'm passionate about what we stand for. We have actually a vision that's summarized in 2 words, which is better marketing. So it's how do we better align marketing with societal aspirations, and how do we make out of that opportunities for marketers.
Great. And you have a very high profile. I think most people watching this will know who you are, and they'll know how important the WFA is and all that you've achieved. But for a lot of people that looks like, oh, that was easy, he can do that. But what we know is that sometimes when people talk about what was difficult, people out there can say, oh, well, if that was difficult for him, maybe I can do that. So tell me a little bit about the difficult things that impacted your career.
It's been actually defining those moments of difficulty, yeah? And there have been quite a few of those.
No.
Difficult in the sense of challenging, and sense of moments of uncertainty, So first of all, I'm a French and German, so which is unusual. My dad was a German and my mom is French. We spoke French at home with my sister, my brother, my dad, and my mom. But my parents, for some reason, I never really knew why, put me into a German section at the European school. And I just basically landed in a classroom when I was 6, not understanding a word around me. And I picked up a new word every day and got it translated from my dad. And that's literally how I learned German. And I did all my school years and university in German. And actually what I found, these were difficult years. Between the age of 6 to 12, they were difficult because adults often think, kids are sponges, put them in a swimming pool, they just pick it up. Language is much more than just functional. Language is culture. So it's not about just understanding what people say, it's understanding the culture behind it and the attitudes and the mindset. And so for many people, kids, the age of 6 to 12 are easy, they've childhood age, etc. For me, there were years of challenge. I was very lucky because I was in the German section, and German pedagogy is very sort of inclusive, a bit like the Nordic pedagogy, which is sort of supportive of kids. I had really important teachers that supported me, whereas and that helped me gain confidence gradually. And at the age of 12, I finally became bilingual and bicultural. And so this first challenge is important to me because I think it defines who I am. I'm truly French and German. When people ask me, who are you? That's who I am. I think I understand both cultures. And I think those cultures are Latin and they're Germanic, closer to Anglo-Saxon. It helps me in my day-to-day job, understand people and connect with people. But that was a defining challenge for me. And at the age of 12, I started to be, confident and successful, but all the school years until the age of 12 have been difficult years, I had another big challenge in my childhood or years of adolescence. My dad was my model, my inspiration. He was very successful at what he did, and he was in the European Commission. He was the first chief of staff of the first European Commission president. So he was the youngest director of the European Commission. He was very, very successful. I tried to emulate him. And at the age of 17, when I was 17, he was 46. He passed away very, very abruptly within 8 months. And that was a defining time in my life, because I became, from a day to another, from an hour to another, an adult. No?
Yes.
Childhood evaporated immediately. Suddenly you start asking yourself the question, how am I going to manage? Will I be able to study? How can I study? How can I do that without being a burden on my mom?
Wow.
So this has been a really important moment in terms of taking responsibility for what you do, figuring it out for yourself without being constantly so helped, supported, etc. My mom was devastated, and I found the energy in myself to do what I did. And at the age of 18, I think many adolescents sense that stress. At the age of 18, you're being asked to define what you want to be in the future. Guess what? At the age of 18, you've got other uncertainties, no? I was deeply passionate about international relations and politics. That's what we talked at home, at breakfast, lunch, and dinner. And I was a European anyway. I was growing up in the Brussels bubble, as they call it. But I decided not to do that. That was my first big individual decision. I wouldn't do that because I wouldn't want to live in the shadow of my dad. No, he was always going to be more successful than I was. No, and I took that decision first to continue in German because I'd climbed that mountain until the age of 17.
Yes,
I didn't want to abandon that. I wanted to continue my studies in German. I didn't want to do what my dad would, even if I was passionate about. And I picked business administration and marketing. So went off to Switzerland. These have been incredibly, challenging years, but very, very rewarding. I probably didn't enjoy my studies like others enjoyed, because I was very in this sort of mindset of I can't be a burden for my family. I need to get there, etc. At the same time, I was very ambitious in the sense that I want to live up to my dad's expectations. So you see that it's been quite a journey. Yeah.
You'd be a therapist's dream, all of that happening in your life.
Yeah.
The way in which I've seen you lead the WFA is always calm, confident, clear. I'm wondering if there are times that you felt less confident, or it was a particularly challenging situation, an example of that.
Yeah.
Because it doesn't show on the outside.
Yeah. I mean, first of all, there have been other moments of challenge, I think it's worthwhile sharing, because I think, sometimes people, hesitate, where's my life? What is it that I should be doing, I finished my business administration studies in St. Gallen. St. Gallen is the sort of reference business school in sort of German-speaking part of Europe. And I applied to, the big companies, Unilever, Procter & Gamble, L'Oreal. I get actually an offer from L'Oreal after my first interview. L'Oreal back then made 40 offers for 5,000 applications. And I didn't accept it.
Wow.
Because deep down in my guts, I was still hesitating. Is it international relations? Is it politics? Or is it actually marketing? And I got an offer to do a traineeship at the United Nations in New York. And so I said, L'Oreal, so I can't accept your offer. I'm going for United Nations. And retrospectively, I was very brave, but I think it was the right thing for me to do. I went there. I thoroughly enjoyed it. I mean, I was 23 years old. Spent time in the United Nations, and you saw really the politics of it. Behind the scenes, and the themes, the subjects are just so close to my heart. I was really passionate about that, and they offered me to stay on. I said no. This is not for me, funnily enough. So the themes were the ones I'm passionate about. It's understanding how society ticks.
Yes.
How do we deal with the big collective issues, etc. But I knew that I was not compatible with a career where you're a very small cog in a big machinery. And I saw lots of brilliant people who over time lost their energy in terms of just being such a small cog and not seeing, and not being accountable, not seeing the product of their work. And so I go back to L'Oreal. L'Oreal had waited for a year for me. And I did the 11 years at L'Oreal. And so if you just look at my CV, wow. So sales rep, product manager, group manager, marketing director, and head of business units at the age of 31. You think, wow. So to your point.
Perfect.
I had my business cards and people were just, wow, 31, etc. And I'm going to tell you one thing. I was unhappy. I was unhappy. Deep down, I was unhappy.
Why?
Because it was not me. I was actually doing the L'Oreal thing. I mean, it's on record, so probably Laura's going to be seeing it one day. But I was doing L'Oreal because I was still in this study mindset. I need to be proving to my dad that I'm able to do it, and I'll be succeeding. No.
Yes.
And deep down, I was still in that mindset. L'Oreal was back then the single most revered company in France and Europe, and and L'Oreal reward young talent. They don't care about your age, no? And so I went through all these things very quickly. I had 3 mentors at L'Oreal, and one in particular was really important to me. He was my boss. He was 32, he was 31, I was 30. Marketing director, he was 31, head of business in it. One day he just leaves.
Oh,
overnight,
wow.
yeah? And he was seen to be the next, honestly, he was on the trajectory to be the next CEO. And he leaves. I said, what are you doing? I said, this thing is not me. It's actually it's for my dad, to prove my dad I was able to do it. And he moved to do something totally different. He was in charge of entertainment programs on one of the major French TV channels, yeah? And he succeeded there and created his own audiovisual company, whatever. And that seeded a grain, it got me to think, what are you doing? Are you really happy? I wasn't happy. I was just pretending I was fitting in, and actually I wasn't entirely fitting in. I wasn't a 100% marketeer, funny enough, it wasn't enough for me to be realizing myself. There was an entire part of myself that I was cultivating during my leisure time,
Yeah.
For example, reading the FT or Le Monde, etc. It wasn't at work. It was not supposed to be at work, And one day I meet a headhunter, and the headhunter asked me a question that no headhunter had ever asked me. Headhunters ask you the question, would you want to do the same job next door for 20% more salary?
Yeah.
That's the safest way for them to succeed. And she asked me, what would be your dream job? And I respond without having really thought about it, with my guts. I said, one day I'd like to combine my passion for marketing and my passion for politics. I said, oh, that's unusual. And she calls me back 6 months later saying, I think I have your job. And WFA back then was a very dusty organization. It was lots of white men with grey hair. And before the interview, they sent me per mail the brochure, And I go through this brochure. And I tell my wife, I'm not going to this interview. It's impossible. No, the thing is just so old-fashioned. It's for retired old men, And he said, go. It doesn't cost you anything. Go. And I'm being grilled for 2 hours by the head of marketing at Mars and the head of policy at Procter & Gamble. And I come out of this interview, and I knew I'm going to take that bet because these people have a vision. They have a project. And I took the job. And I'm going to tell you something. We were discussing how long I've been doing this job. There was not a single day where I regretted my decision, because the decision was made with my guts. And back then, there were so many people who were asking me, what the hell are you doing? What the hell are you doing? What is this WFA, trade organization? The title was Director General L'Oreal Produits Publics, so consumer products in Belgium. What the hell are you doing? But those who knew me really close, my wife and some of my best friends, knew exactly what I was doing. And so, retrospectively, it was probably a bit crazy, but I just did what my guts told me to do.
Wow!
I switched off my brain and just did it.
And what a ride it's been. I'm probably more aware of the success you've had than what might have been difficult. Can you tell us a challenging time for you and your leadership within your WFA period?
Yeah, I mean, in particular, you won't be surprised to hear at the beginning. It was challenging, So first of all, we're a tiny organization. I instantly sensed that there was appetite for what we're doing.
Yes,
but we simply didn't have the people nor the brains. Yeah, and one of the difficult periods was after those 2 brilliant people had taken over WFA, we had a new president, and that new president, I don't want to go into too much detail, but he wasn't living up to my sense of where we should be going. Yeah, and this president, I thought, he's only going to be speaking. He's a non-executive president. He's going to be speaking 4 times a year. It's not going to be this year. And he was speaking indeed no more than 2 or 3 times per year. But he was basically undermining all my work.
Oh my goodness!
Because I was trying to build the reputation, etc.
Yeah.
And you've got a president that is not living up to people's expectation, and suddenly you realize all the work that you do is actually coming down because you simply don't have the leadership.
Yes.
Because leadership symbolizes to many people what this organization is all about.
Exactly.
And so there have been moments of where I sense, is this actually worth it? No, should I keep going? And I've always stuck with my guts that this was going to be the right thing for me, even if it was going to be difficult. I just stayed on, and it paid out. What helped me a lot was recruiting people that were like-minded and that had that energy,
Yes.
And I realized very quickly that it's not the number of people, but when you've got people who've got that same energy, you can move mountains,
Right.
And that's what helped us build it,
So we all have difficult people in our life. In this case, it was your president. There might be some other people. I feel like I've built an entire executive coaching practice on people dealing with difficult people above, below, or, working with them. Have you developed particularly, everyone's different, but particular techniques that you use when you're faced with somebody really difficult? And some people you might find more difficult than others. Do you know what those qualities are that somebody else might be able to handle, but for you, this is a difficult person? And how do you handle them?
And I'm dealing with so many people. You can imagine there's always going to be a percentage of people where the chemistry isn't there, and so first of all, I've come to realize that whatever organization you're in, there's always going to be that percentage of people that that are difficult to handle. Yeah. So this idea,
a member organization,
exactly.
That's multiplied.
Yeah, and so the idea that you can get rid of people just by parting ways with them, etc., doesn't work. There's always going to be. So that's first thing. Yeah, you need to be realistic. Yeah?
Yes.
I tend to be quite curious of people. So one of the reasons why I enjoy my job is I love to find the chemistry.
Yes.
And probably it's also linked to my multicultural background. I know a lot of the pleasure I have is find the ways I can gain the confidence and build relationships. Now, some of that is not possible because you don't have that chemistry, or you don't have much common denominator, and people, and sometimes people just come across as either arrogant or they don't trust you, which I find difficult. When I'm going to be very vulnerable. I find a lot of my energy comes also from being with people who trust you.
Yes.
When I sense that I'm in a supportive environment, I can climb mountains. Yeah. When I'm surrounded by people who I sense have doubts, I still need to work on myself in order to be pushing back on that and finding that confidence in me. And so the way I deal with people that are more difficult is I try to reassure them on the substance. So if I cannot build chemistry through personal relationships, which helps me, I try to get them with me on the base of substance. Maybe you don't believe in me, or maybe you've got preconceived ideas. I'm going to try and prove just on the substance that I'm worth your time.
Right.
So I don't have any magic formula. I think I'm pretty good at building relationships with very different characters. I think I've got some empathy. That's probably also the reason why I'm doing this job. But there are some where I struggle.
Yeah, and I understand trust. I think it's one of the most under-observed ingredients for business. If you have trust, or for anything, right? If you have trust, and developing trust is not always easy. Because, for instance, one of my theories is you develop trust by being vulnerable first, right? So they're feeling like they see what they get, but they may not choose to do that. And then, okay, now where do you go? They're still, or they're viewing you through a lens that isn't you.
Yeah.
Because of whatever happened to them, probably when they were kids. It's difficult.
I know exactly what has helped me build trust over time when I was challenged in my childhood, it was actually my grandmother. I can still see her. I can still see her eyes looking at me. So she was German, and so she was giving me sort of support lessons after school, so for me to just start learning the language. And I can still remember her look at me, and I could read in her eyes a lot of confidence and encouragement. Yeah.
Wow.
And and I know that she's been really important for me in terms of sensing that when people believe in you,
yes,
it gives you wings. And in my case, it certainly is. The case.
Yes, yes. A lot of times people believe that it's their insecurities that drive them. I don't think so. I think really understanding what you're good at, where you need help, gives you wings. So it's a great way to put it. Curious about whether you have you have a team of individuals, strong personalities. Do you have certain motivation philosophies that you think keep their energy up? Have you achieved amazing things with not a big team?
Yeah. So for me, what's very, very important, people are always surprised how I interview them. No, I'm interested in people. No.
Yeah.
So I mean, I'm seeing the CV. I know that they're pretty smart. I don't need to have too much details in terms of what their marks are, etc. I'm interested in just getting a sense of how people tick.
Yes.
What makes them passionate. What they aspire to. So people are always a bit surprised by the interviews. And I've recruited actually every single staff member in the organization. And you can imagine over 21 years we've got time to do that. And many of them have stayed for a long, long time.
Yes.
So a lot of the sort of most important pillars of WFA, have stayed
great
8, 10, 12. There's one even 17 and 22. And they're 46, 48. So they've started really young. And so I think it's important for me to share values and a vision. Yeah.
Right.
And understand how people are prepared to sort of invest themselves emotionally into what we're trying to do. Because this is not a functional thing. I mean, of course there are things that we need to do, but, as you can imagine, in order to have an agenda for brand markets around the world, you need to be radiating energy, enthusiasm, a vision. You need to bring people with you, and for that you need people that are prepared to buy into that vision. So that's, for me, that's really important. I'm looking also for people that are self-starters, that have enough energy and self-confidence in them, in order to be not afraid of being autonomous.
Right. Okay.
So as you can imagine, we're a small organization, so we don't work in layers of hierarchy that is going to be sort of clearing every single decision. We see that more as a mentoring. So we help people.
Yeah.
So I always take the image I'm using is we throw people into the pool, and then we're at their side to have them make sure they don't drown. But rather than sort of run around the pool and do abstract lessons, and I'm not a micromanager. So I have very strong people in the team.
Right.
I see myself more as a coach. So they come and see me, in order to be discussing things they want to discuss.
Yes.
But I've got a very, very strong team, and I give them a lot of leeway for them to be, building their visions. Yeah, that's how we've assembled the team. And so I'm going to be very, very vulnerable again. So that team is a very, very strong team, and in a way, I've picked lots of people that tick a bit like I do. Yeah.
Right. Okay.
But then, we're a global organization, and you could challenge us in terms of how does that reflect the diversity of the marketing community, and how do you bring in different characters, different origins, different cultures, etc. And this is going to be for us the next space, because if you want to be, I look at the membership of WFA, we start having a significant percentage of Asian companies, Middle East-based companies, Latin American-based companies. We will have to diverse more.
Absolutely.
And so it's going to be interesting to see how can we remain faithful to our values,
yes,
while still making sure that we integrate different cultures.
I completely understand. I'm sure you'll make progress in it. Absolutely. Right. So on to some more personal questions. So you don't look to me like you ever get stressed, but if you are, what do you do to relax, ease the stress, get perspective.
So for me, what's very, very important has always been it's that private, professional life balance. And so in the difficult years at L'Oréal at the end, where I was questioning myself, I wasn't sure what I was going to be doing. I was sensing that pressure of someone who's not exactly in his role and needs to pretend, My family is very, very important for me, My wife, my children, my best friends. And WFA in their mind doesn't exist, that is just so refreshing, and I can be here on stage in Cannes, etc. I go back home, and this is just my mom still doesn't understand what I'm doing. Neither does my sister, and that is just so incredibly important for me because it's Stephan,
Yes,
and that's where I get a lot of my energy is from that balance, and I know that when that balance is threatened, and sometimes it is, I'm more tense, And so I need constantly to be managing, a bit like an athlete, the time I devote to my work and the time I devote to resource myself,
Right, recovery.
And so that for me that is a very important piece of managing the stress. The other thing is I'm much less stressed in my role now than I was at L'Oréal ever, and the reason for that is I don't have to pretend.
Right.
Or very rarely. Put that way,
yeah,
very rarely,
yeah,
because I can almost bring myself to the job.
Yes.
And when I compare to how I felt back at L'Oréal, and this was the beginning of my career, and obviously it wasn't the same type of responsibility, I feel less stressed because I'm more honest with myself. I'm looking at my agenda for Cannes, the interview today, and then I've got a panel session, etc. I look forward to those. It's just going to be, me. I'm going to talk about stuff I'm interested in. Sometimes I don't have the response to the question, but it doesn't sort of challenge me in terms of my legitimacy, and therefore it helps me manage my stress. I still do feel the stress when I get on stage and there's 1,000 people in front of me. Yeah. No, I guess that's everyone, but not a stress in terms of am I legitimate in terms of being where I am. It's just me.
Yeah, people underestimate how much keeping up all that all those masks, and if you're dropping the mask, other people do too, and then you start to have very real conversations, and that's what one of the key ingredients to creating a safe environment where people aren't worried about what they're going to say or how they have to be or saying it's okay when it's not, and they do better work in my view.
Yeah, and so one of the sort of recipe of WFA or magic sauce of WFA is, and you were part of those groups for a long time, is we bring together peers in forums where it's Chatham House rules, and so it's the good, the bad, and the ugly, and so it's safe, and I'm always astonished how professionals, very respected professionals, actually crave those moments, where they can just say as it is, rather than say they've all solved it, and it's an incredibly an incredibly powerful way to help people be honest with themselves, and also learn, and you could argue that in today's day and age, and with social media, where you always need to be having the right picture and the right comment, and you've again succeeded in doing something, having those moments, where you offer safe harbors and people can be talking about the issues they're facing in terms of professional issues is very helpful. I'm also struck to your point about what happens with people that you don't get along with naturally, how people evolve, so often, or not often, but sometimes it has happened that people tend to be sometimes quite arrogant, quite sort of rigid in the professional environment, and then you get them into those open conversations, and they loosen up because suddenly they realize, you don't have to.
Yeah.
You're going to be, recognized, and you can be safe, and you can be, drop the mask, and how people then gradually change. And one of the things that always made me laugh is at WFA, for a long time, we had our office manager. She'd been with WFA for 35 years until she retired. And she had this incredible empathy with people. She could read people within 5-10 minutes. So I got candidates for job roles, I would have them have coffee at the reception so that she could spend 5 minutes with us. I would then do my interview, and the first thing I'd say, can you tell me what you think? And she was 90% of
Yeah,
person.
that's so great.
And so she was also incredibly good at transforming arrogant, authoritarian, rigid business people into human beings, no? And I was just so struck that she was able to talk to them about their grandchildren, about their hip surgery, you know? Because suddenly they were actually in front of a human being that was really caring. She was asking questions about the grandchildren, not because she had to, but because she was interested in that person, and how that suddenly transformed the person. No?
It does. I personally had one of those experiences where I was here at Cannes. I came from one of those meetings where everybody was, the subtext was, well, here's how important I am. And I walked in, David Weldon was president, and I just said to him, David, I can't do this again. You know, you've asked me to speak on a topic to kick off the group. It's going to be honest, you know, because I hadn't sat in these groups before. And I was like, I found my people. That's how it made me feel.
Nice.
Which was great. What's your proudest non-work moment? Or I think it's hard to choose proudest, but what?
My proudest moment, my most magical moment was the birth of my two sons.
Yeah.
So that's obvious. You're looking for more?
Yeah, tell me one other thing.
I think the fact that I was able to succeed in that business school in Switzerland, because my dad had passed away 5 years ago, and I could see him, you know, I could sense him. You know? It was almost, and he'd given me that energy.
Oh,
yeah, I think that was probably, and you know, seeing also my mom, you know, who was sort of, you know, slowly recovering from it. No, I felt that I was living up almost to some kind of expectation.
Yes,
that was important for me. I mean, the moment where I started to live me rather than live for what my dad would have expected from me was when I left L'Oréal and went for WFA. That was me.
I understand.
Yeah.
I understand. Final question. I can think of loads of legacies you've created already, but I'm curious, you know, what do you want when you're done, at whatever stage that is? My financial planner calls it end of plan. What do you want to look back on, feel really proud of?
You know what? You're not going to be surprised to hear that what really matters to me is to explore where. So I'm not naive. It's not going to be the case for everything, but where marketing can be a force for good in helping solve big societal issues. That matters to me. No, I mean, so my mom and my sister don't understand what I'm doing. However, they do understand when I talk to them about carbon emissions,
right,
or diversity inclusion, or brand safety standards, so that ads don't fund no pedophilic content or terrorist content. You know, and obviously society has big challenges. They're global in nature, they're complicated, and there are lots of those terms where marketing won't be able to help. But there are some, as you know, where that's intersection.
Absolutely.
And when you can find that intersection, I know that marketing can actually drive change much faster than any type of regulation or legislation. No?
Yes.
And in a way, that is for me a legacy. When I started, you know, at the beginning at WFA, you had the people dealing with regulation, but the people dealing with regulation they had just one brief: is push back on legislators, keep them in their box, and leave us marketers do what we do best.
Wow.
And today, as you know, it's all about figuring out how marketing is going to be able to shape society in a manner that makes it more sustainable, more equitable.
Yes.
And in a way, if I can have contributed a bit to that, that would make me proud. No?
I think you already have. Thank you very much. Thank you very much for being so honest, so vulnerable. I'm sure everyone will learn a lot from this.
Thank you, Syl.
Thank you.
Really enjoyed it.